Imagine shrinking yourself down. Not just small, we're talking smaller than a cell, smaller than a virus, smaller than almost anything your brain can picture. We're talking about a world where a single particle is so tiny that if you lined up 1,000 of them, they'd be thinner than a strand of your hair. This is the nano world. And here's the wild part. At that scale, the rules of physics and chemistry start to behave differently.
Gold isn't just gold anymore. Silver isn't just silver. These materials start doing things that seem almost impossible, like absorbing light, generating heat, and even killing bacteria. Our guest today has spent her career learning to engineer exactly that. Starting in Cordoba, Argentina, and now right here at the University of Ottawa, please welcome Dr. Jazmín Silvero.
So to start off, how did you get into science? Was there like a specific moment that you were like, oh yes, this is it?
If I had to think on the top of my head a moment, I'm in my mom's medical consulting, and she had this poster, and it was nothing like cartoons, or it was a straight draw from bacteria and parasites and so on, right? Mm-hmm. So that always catching my attention, thinking that, like she was saying to all her patients, that those tiny, tiny things that we cannot see can impact us in a major way, right? So I started to get interested for this microscopic world. Mm-hmm. That was the first time. I believe I was like 4 or 5. I remember being very little, cannot even pronunciate the name of the things there. Mm-hmm. But that was my first approach. And it was a long way to now doing research in biology, right? But that was one of the first approach, I think.
What specifically, as we've done some research, so like what specifically drew you to chemistry or nanotechnology, other than just the like tiny bacteria? Was there anything else?
Yes, for sure. My PhD is actually in photochemistry, mm-hmm. in chromium compounds, something more like physical chemistry. So it's not closely related. I was interested because I got the opportunity to join a research group on my second year. I think it was the middle of my second year as an undergraduate, okay? So because that's why I got the opportunity to see in person, I got interested. But I still have this little, girl inside me curious about the microorganisms. Mm-hmm. So I started to make my own way to a more biological research, mm-hmm. okay? And in the middle of that, it was the rise of the nanotechnology research, right? Between the 2010s and 2015. So I got submerged in that world. And I remember thinking, well, they are the same size, so they should see each other, right? They should. I'm sure they're interacting, and that's what caught my attention, and is now leading my research: the interaction between these microorganisms or cells mm-hmm. and the nanostructures.
Yeah, for your research in like nanotechnology, if you were to explain it to a 12-year-old mm-hmm. in like simpler terms, how would you say it?
I did that a year ago. My niece was 12 years ago. So I will say that all this plastic that you have around, different shape and different size, is the same but smaller, mm-hmm. right? Just, you can't see them, but they are as diverse as the one you can see. Okay, and for one plastic that you can see, like that plastic console that you have over there, mm-hmm. there's millions of the one you cannot see. Just by touching it, you are breaking and producing microplastics. Invisible to your eyes, but they are there. You are breathing them, you are drinking in your water, in your mug, right? Because even if it's paper, it has a plastic coat. So you're never actually free of microplastic. So that's why that is where they came from, okay? Mm-hmm. And they are not alone in this microscopic world. As I was mentioning, you also have microorganisms and you have yourself right at the same level. So a microplastic, by definition, is something smaller than 5 micras. But in reality, the ones that concern us the most are even smaller than that. We are talking about few nanometers. So whatever is even smaller than a bacteria or a cell. So 100, 200 nanometers, that's like a 1 out of 10 part of the cell. So 10 times smaller than a cell. Because it's smaller, it can be uptaken. And then it will trigger whole kind of different reactions, right? And because they are so small, they tend to accumulate. It's easy for them to get in. The microorganism, your body, is not as easy to get out.
I've never even thought about before just like how touching plastic will
Yeah, I
just
didn't know that. Like,
yeah, I
does it
didn't
like
know
breaks
that.
off?
Yes, yes. So everyone is talking about how you make microplastics when you put your clothes in the drying machine, and you know those things you are collecting in the drying machine. That's very visible because you are creating millions. But more recently, researchers start to paying attention to small mechanical abrasions, even heating water in those kettles, because the bottom sometimes is plastic or it has some corners of plastic. Heating the water, the heat will also release microplastic to the water you are using for your tea after, right? And the coffee you are drinking went through plastic tubes, for example. So that's also creating microplastic.
So even like in your drinks, there is
Yes,
microplastic for sure.
always. Even if it's a brand new bottle, right? We like to think because it's a brand new bottle, then the liquid is pure. But because of the method that advanced, now we can see, and there's still microplastic or nanoplastic, to use the right word, right? In there. No one is really, really free. Probably your grandparents are more free of microplastic than we are, right? Because they're only around since 1950 or something like that.
Yeah.
So I was exposed to them. You were exposed. My kid, 2-year-old, he was born. He was exposed to microplastic. I'm pretty sure even before getting out of my body, right? And he will have more microplastics, even than me and than you. That is a personal motivation, right? So okay, he's gonna have them, but if we understand them better, maybe we can do something about the interactions. Prevent them or lower them. Yes, in the air there's also microplastic. My research is focused on the one in the water, but we are also breathing them.
Just going off of what you're saying about your research, could you tell us just a little bit about your research background?
Sure.
Yeah.
As you can hear about my accent, I came from Argentina. I started my own group back in 2015 about nano antimicrobials. They were not plastic, they were actually metal ones. Gold, silver, titanium dioxide. I was trying to create this new line of better antibiotics, let's say, because the one we have, honestly, they're barely doing anything to the bacteria and the fungus anymore, right? They know better. They learn faster than us how to protect themselves. So you have all kind of antibiotic resistance. And with these new materials, they are new material for us, but they're also new materials for the bacteria. So the microorganisms did not see them before. So therefore, they don't have enzymes to break them. They are like, okay, what is this? Okay, it's going to take some time for them to adapt. And because the variety is so broad, I think it's going to take a long time. There's a good chance to get a family of nano antimicrobials. I've been doing that with my students over there until I came here. And I think just because of the facility, my interest to switch it to researching more about this nano, but plastics now, okay?
Yeah. So we're gonna go into like segment 2, which is a bit more deeper.
Sure.
So in your research, is there a favorite? Like you have a specific one that you love talking about or that you love researching about?
Well, research has many aspects, right? It's not just the experiments, which I love. It's
Yeah.
also planning them, which is usually sitting in front of a desk, writing about them, communicate them like I'm doing right now. You're also supposed to share your knowledge, not just in paper. I'm saying suppose because, let's be honest, not all of us are doing it, but you're supposed to share your knowledge with students by mentoring, with other colleagues in conference, for example, or events. One of my favorite part is the sharing, okay? So I get an immediate reward when I discover something. But if I keep it for myself, like the happiness is not enough, right? It's not fulfilling. So one of my favorite part is sharing, and if I can apply it, even better.
Before you were talking about combining like gold particles with antibiotics, can you tell us a little bit about how that works?
Yes, sure. So most of the people, when they read the titles of the papers about combining gold nanoparticles and amoxicillin, for example, or ciprofloxacin, they think is that we are improving the effect of those antibiotics. However, we are just tricking the bacteria, okay? We are hitting them with an antibiotic that for them is a molecule, is like a sticker that they see, okay, the antibiotic is coming, and they are designed to attach to their, in this case, to their cell wall, okay? So it's acting just as a label, as a target. But the antibiotic itself, because it's already attached to the nanoparticle, is not actually doing anything but that. Just leading the nanoparticle to the bacteria cell wall. The actual effect comes from light for the gold nanoparticles. Gold nanoparticles are have low toxicity. They are really good for us. They are inert. They won't harm the regular cells. But the minute you heat them, you irradiate them with light, specifically the green light. The gold nanoparticles are red, by the way. They are not like golden. So they are red, and they absorb green light. When they absorb this green light, because of the electron transfer, electron movement on their surface, they're going to produce local heat, right? Another chemical reaction as well. But mainly that photothermal effect is the one damaging the bacteria wall, okay? So it's like I'm sending these nanoparticles guided by the antibiotic, but then only the ones that get irradiated are the ones that are going to melt the bacteria, let's say it, okay? And that allows you for a very specific antimicrobial effect, only in the place of infection that you want, without the secondary side effect.
So it's like light, basically like a weapon for bacteria?
Yes. Yes. So the challenge with that kind of photoantimicrobial is how you deliver light, for example, for a deep infection. But technology is improving faster than we think about it, right? There are all kind of probes and lasers that you can use. They're even using it right now for surgery. So its application is not that far away, I believe.
That's cool. I've never thought about just how, like, I think it's really interesting that instead of using the antibiotic, how it usually is used, it's more of a guide to what the actual, like, to where you need to go.
Half of the story is that it guides the nanoparticle into the infection place, right? The other part of the story that was also published is that we discovered that the clearance is really good because, again, the antibiotics were prepared to leave your body, not to get stuck on it, right? Like I was telling you, exactly the same as the microplastic tend to accumulate. If I only give you gold nanoparticles, they may accumulate. But because they are coated with this antibiotic, your kidneys are already prepared to clear that out.
Okay. um, a little shift for your most recent work. You've been developing a surface that can kill bacteria by using rice husks.
Yes.
Can you tell us
That
how
one
that
is
is?
related. It was developed here in Ottawa, but it was based on this knowledge of photo-antimicrobial. So the same as gold, silver nanoparticles can also interact with light, okay? And depending on the shape they have, if they are spheric, for example, spheric silver nanoparticles will look yellow. I was using triangles, so they actually look kind of bluish, okay? So they will absorb a different wavelength, and that will be my active material. I saw when I started to develop this material, I saw, okay, I'm going to put silver triangles, and they're going to act with light, and they're going to be photothermal antimicrobial, same as gold. But to our surprise, okay, developing a surface had a challenge that I think none of us in the group was prepared for, because we're not a material polymer group, actually. So to try to embed these silver nanoparticles, we needed to come out with a surface that was robust enough, okay, but that will not block light. And I'm doing like this with my hands, and I actually saw a student's nails, which look better than me, and has this nail polish, and she was explaining to me that they last a long time because you put them under the UV.
Yeah.
So you make them permanent. You know them?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not a big fan, as you can see, of nail polish, but I was hearing this, and I saw, okay, and it was kind of transparent with things inside, embedded, like little stars.
Yeah. So it's like they.
Yes, a transparent polymer.
Yeah.
So I researched, and it's a metacrylate, and you put it under the UV light, and that metacrylate is polymerizing, basically, like intercrossing the change and now becoming rigid. That's it. So I figured, okay, let's use that. But instead of the little star, let's put my nanoparticles in it, okay? And then it can be a coating that you can put in this table or in your keyboard that must be full of microorganisms, for example, right? And so why not? It's something that people can use even in things that you already have, right? You can put it like a coat and then put it on the UV, and you have an antimicrobial coat now, right? And we did it, and we still need something more rigid. That is why we were thinking, okay, so if this is not enough, we need probably silica or zinc or something. And there was another student mentioning that it's important that whatever we use, it should be eco-friendly or from a renewable source, okay, at least. So I say, okay, a renewable source might not be the same Canada, Argentina, Asia. But apparently Canada does have a lot of chitosan coming from the crustacean. And it also have, believe it or not, rice husk. Not because it's produced here, but because it's, the post-production to get rid of that rice crust, it is made here, okay? And they just throw it away. So it's a waste, okay? That crust of the rice that we do not normally eat, because it's too tough, actually, is 99% silica.
Oh.
So we do a short chemical treatment, but we basically end up just calcinated, get rid of whatever organic, dirt you have in there, and you end up with a white powder that is 100% silica nanoparticles. So that now we have our silver nanoparticles that are the antimicrobial ones. We have the metacrylate for the nail polish. I actually bought nail polish,
Oh my gosh.
which it was difficult to approve to buy it from a grant. Like this professor want to
buy nail polish with it.
I know, from Amazon. So imagine trying to get that. But I wanted to make it simple, right? And then we got this bag of rice husk from a brewery.
And
So-
all this was approved from for grant wise.
Not immediately, I bought it for my money, but then eventually got
Okay,
approved
okay,
when
okay.
I had the paper. Because, yeah, it's true.
You're not just
Sometimes
buying
you need to take a risk, right? If
Yeah,
you really
yeah.
believe it's going to work. So we end up combining these three things into a code that you can apply, and it will have this antibacterial effect when you irradiate with light. To our surprise, not only the silver triangles are photoactive, it's also the silica. So we even got a higher effect than we thought.
Oh,
It's the combination of both.
that's crazy.
Well, you get surprises. That's the fun part of.
About research.
Yes, you have to follow that hand, right? Okay, I think this is gonna work because background, our experience, but sometimes it's difficult to explain that hand, that you have, that intuition. And only by taking risks you can find these surprises. If you know 100% what is going to happen, then what's the point? You have to risk it sometimes.
I just had a question that if you figure out, right, or if you found a solution, what do you do after that? Do you just
You mean if you develop a good product?
Yeah,
You find a
yeah,
solution,
you
an
find
antimicrobial?
Mhm. Then what?
That's a good question. I cannot help to answer with a bit of frustration on that because
Yeah, of course.
so far I believe the gap between good research and applied research is still too big. It's still too big. We have ongoing collaboration with industries, luckily on this microplastic project, for example, that I think are the way to go, because if you work on your own and then you have a really good product and you patent it with your name, no industry is going to want to invest anymore, okay? But if you start working together since the beginning, then the things can be different, okay? They are going to be part of the IP, so they are more interesting, and they guide you, because the best solution is not always the most profitable solution.
Okay.
So even if it's really, really, really good nanoparticle, but it's too expensive to produce, no one is going to make it.
Oh, interesting.
So there are things you need to take into account, to consider from moment zero when you are doing research. I was doing this collaboration with industry in Argentina as well, and I founded my startup over there to try to avoid these gaps, okay? Try to be the company instead of reaching to a company.
Oh.
I had to leave that at home, sadly, but that's also a way, if more research are their own company, okay? So maybe that's a way.
Would you
It
recommend
is
that?
a lot of work, though. Huh?
I said, would you recommend that? Starting.
I would recommend the entrepreneurship journey. You learn a lot. It is a journey. So in my last 10 years, it might become your life journey. But it's not for everyone to follow until the end. I think, me personally, I try it, but I still like more the research on the bench side, let's say, okay? The founding a company, you cannot be the scientist and the CEO and the CFO and the marketing and the CM and the... Even if I like them all, the positions, right? So I'm still choosing being more close to the research, the students.
That's good, yeah.
But it's a really good journey. You learn a lot of it. Now I think even if I came back to the academic, I can understand the way the people in the industry think. So I can understand, and I think I can talk to them better than I could talk to them 10 years ago. I was starting to talk to them because the electron transfer to this and this and this, 100% yield, and they were like, how much? So
that's the question.
Yes, that's the question. That's the answer they need.
Yeah. So when you do it now, do you have to keep it in mind? Like you have to always
yes.
keep it
So
in mind.
sometimes starting with a nail polish and a bag of rice husk, that overall cost me like $20. Not a bad idea, because they can see, okay, this is not expensive. I can scale it up. There's plenty of it out there. You see, so you start to do more research that even though we are still interested in the mechanistic aspect, it's more easy to reproduce and scale up. You don't want to use this very expensive chemist and then they cannot do it, right? But it's different for all research. It's different. Very, very, very basic, deep research is still needed. There are groups doing it and it's great. And more applied research is needed and we are doing it, I think.
When you were initially going into the research to work on a antimicrobial surface, like where did you want to see that applied in the real world? Or even now, like where do you want to see that applied?
I can mention 20 papers or I can mention my grandmother because it was the same months that I had to decide my thesis topic, that she was in the hospital dealing with this antibiotic resistant infection. All people, because they have lived long life, they were exposed to many microorganisms and many antibiotics. So they are not as good as they are to us anymore. So they tend to develop these antibiotic resistant infections. And I wanted to help that kind of people. Okay, I knew at that minute it was too late for her, but maybe not for others. So I want to see them apply to people eventually. Even when I'm talking about this coating that you can put to your keyboard, or it might be the keyboard of a doctor inside a hospital bringing, a microorganism that is too harsh for a patient.
Yeah.
We're going to move on to our third segment, and this one's called Walking in Your Shoes. So we're going to try and just learn more about your day-to-day life and how research and academia play into each other.
Okay.
So my first question is, what does a typical day look like for you when balancing teaching and research?
It's a good question for today because today I had a class and I also had a couple of experiments and meeting with research students, and after you are meeting the company. So it's a good day. I think you try to split the hours. There's no one day that is the same than the other one. So you can love that or hate that. If you need routine, my shoes are not for you, I have to tell you. Okay? But I actually like that kind of adrenaline of I wake up in the morning, I do have a schedule of things to do, but I don't have a map of how should I do it. Okay? So you are always, again, it feels like improvising, but you have to have the tools to improvise well, right? Otherwise, it's like a musician, imagine. You see this musician improvising a music without a partiture, right? Without a script in front of it. But they need to know how to play the instrument. Otherwise, I will sound terrible, for example. So it's kind of like that. You know the tools, you know the background, you have the knowledge, but every day, when I enter the office, I cannot imagine, like, what is going to be today's problem, for example. Is it like sometimes you plan mixing A with B, you didn't pay attention to the solvent, and turned out neither of them is soluble. So it could be small things like that. It could be bigger things like you develop something and then turns out that it is toxic, okay, and you need to improve and optimize them further. So you are balancing very like experimental solving and troubleshooting with planning a class, right? And because I actually enjoy giving the class, it's not just, okay, it's this and this topic, this and these enzymes, and I put the slides. I'm actually thinking which will be the best way to show them. Should I show this one first or the other one? What example can I put for the class? I don't want to repeat the example because then I get bored. And if I get bored, the students get bored. So,
no, it's like what, because I'm in your class, and it's like, I think what I really like is that, for me, I get really bored if someone like reads off the slides.
No.
It's like it goes right over my head. I'm just looking at. So it's like I feel like you also give a lot of examples and a lot of stories to kind of like make us understand it, which I think is like, thank God.
Okay, I appreciate for mentioning that. So something is reaching out to them of all the things I plan. I have to tell you, I plan probably, 10 examples, and then judging by their faces, that's why I like to be there, right? I don't like to do like Zooms or something like that. And I like to see their faces. How do they react to the first example? So should I give something similar, or no? This is not interesting. I should switch it to something. So I'm reading. I need that feedback from the students. So I will normally plan the classes when I'm not in the lab. Okay, I rather do them. Like even in my office, when the grad students left, like after 5 or at home, which my wife will hate, but because I need to be fully present, right? To be creative. I think you need to be creative to come up with a class that is not just what the students can read online. Now there's so many information in there. I'm pretty sure there's more information than the one I know. And they can read it or ask the AI to explain it. So what is my role then? Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe my role is, because I read that already, try to translate that into something easier to understand or link it to something else. Because the info is there, and that is also why I'm not asking you, and you know that, to memorize as many things, right?
It was really great, like it was really nice studying for the like midterms or whatever, only because a lot of it was just understanding and less memorization, so it made it a little easier to study as well and more interesting to study.
There's always going to be little terms and words you need to remember, but nowadays, all the things you are doing, you have these devices to assist you. So if I'm being completely honest, I'm doing research. I don't remember a constant of the solution of whatever solve, and just look for it. But as long as you know what is that constant means, you can look for it. So I'm just, again, giving you the tools so then you can improvise and troubleshoot.
I mean,
so it's normally, sorry, to finish the answer, it's normally in a semester that you are teaching, is 70-80% planning the lectures and 20-30 the research. That's why not all the professor wants to teach the whole time, right? Because this semester research has been low pace, I have to say. But it's going to be made up the next one, maybe. And of course, you also need to balance not just teaching and research, because most of us have families, right? That you need to include in the equation and in your schedules. So I'm trying to always make some times for that too.
I mean, in your work in general, is there anything that keeps you the most excited to keep? Because I know, like, even whatever that does keep you most excited, how do you keep it when you get into roadblocks during experiments, or even if it's
Is the people.
The people?
Is the people. I've been probably at least 10 labs around the world, right? Not just Argentina. I did internships Brazil, Spain, US, Canada, in Antigonish, Canada in Ottawa, Montreal. So, and I had expectation because sometimes the field was so new and the equipment was the best, you know, and this researcher had the highest H index, and then if the people is not the right, I'm not getting motivated to wake up in the morning and go there. And that's just me. There's research that the field is everything, so they can put up with whatever co-workers you have, right? But for me, I need someone that will say, hello, how are you in the morning?
Yes.
You know? And that when experiment doesn't work, like you were saying, it's not just saying, try a different variable. It's like, okay, how we are feeling, let's go for a coffee or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's 99% the people. You can switch feel or that at the end of the day, that's not what is gonna make me feel fulfilled. It's not I have 10 good experiments or it's the people. So even in class, there's some classes I realized I finished the class and I forgot to mention like 3 important things.
Oh, really?
Right? Yes. Honestly. But I'm like, okay, I can explain the next class or something. But for me, it's a good class if I can see your smiles, right, in class, or if I have feedback in maybe in office hour, or if I triggered questions or interested. That for me is success, not the other way around.
So kind of going off of that, you've done both research and teaching in Argentina and Canada and other places. Have you noticed a difference in how students engage with science or how research culture works between all of the different places? Like how has moving between like all of these different places shaped how you approach your own work?
It's a good question. The solution is not straightforward because it's not as much as the physical place, but the origin of the students, let's say. Okay? Because in Argentina, probably 10-20% are from outside the country, while here in Canada, majority in the class is from outside, right? Or at least their parents are. So the culture is different. And therefore, I think their expectations and their reactions are also different. There are cultures that are more inclined, I think, on the basic knowledge, let's say, or individuals, and cultures that are more, okay, like, what can I do with this? How do I apply it, right? But it has to be very general. Each individual is unique and amazing, and they're interested. And what is great is when you have a mix. So what is great about this particular microenvironment, like in Ottawa, like I'm seeing in this semester, is the mix. Because of the mix, you get a bit of every kind of interest. The apply, the question about the specific receptor and the DNA, and the question about how much this is going to cost, And so there's students in biochemistry that are actually thinking about the cost. So you have a bit of everything. And that mix, I think, is one of the things that make the Ottawa microenvironment especially interesting.
Yeah. We're going to shift into the next segment, which is more of like application like we were talking about earlier. So my first question would be, how would you like to see your research applied to the real world?
Well, I'm going to be coherent with what I answered before. I would like for these nanomaterials to be part of our daily life, okay? Some of them will be as drugs, some of them will be as like materials, For the microplastic research I'm doing right now, one of the applications will be having this reference material that are very much needed to identify these pollutants in the microenvironment or in your body. Let's say you would like to know how much microplastic are in your coffee. So you're going to use X equipment, but you have to tell that equipment, okay, this is what you're looking for. So you need to put that reference. And they are not there yet. Industry is not selling real world reference for microplastic. They're selling some, and they were good for a few years to trigger and to start this research about microplastic. But they are, imagine, perfect little spheres from polypropylene or PETG or polystyrene. You can even select the size and the color, and in real life you have a mix of them, right? So you need a reference that is a mix. But it has to be a known mix. It has to be a mix that you know, okay, these are the plastic that come from a coffee machine. These are the plastic that come from this kind of cloth. These are the plastic from my keyboard. So you need reference for that, okay? And I think maybe in a few years a company is going to sell them. So,
do you think it's going to take a lot of time? Or just, do you think like how like the pace that we're going at, do you think it's...
Depending of what you consider long time. What is a long time for you?
A long time? Just like, I don't know, like years and years, like maybe like around
Maybe like
10
decade.
years,
Yeah.
15 years would be a long time?
So 10 years is a short time.
Oh, really?
For applications, it's a very short times. Very, very short times. I don't know if you remember the last class I was talking about ribosomes that are now being used as drug therapies, right? And they were discovered in the 1980s.
Oh.
So I can say that I think the rate increased right now. So probably not 50 years, but 10 is a good time.
Okay, wait. So do you think like for you, what would be a long time?
More than 10 will be long, I think.
Okay,
Whatever
whatever.
is less than 10 is still within. I like to see some of my things, at least one apply in my lifetime, maybe. So.
Yeah.
The thing with research is sometimes you do not see your own product applied to a final thing that is being sold, for example, but you can see your research in a product that is using that. So research is always feeding from other research. It's a collaborative environment. If you are hoping for a thing that has your name and is sell and you make millions, it's not going to happen. Okay, so if anyone goes into research expecting that, it's very, very weird, and those cases are rarely sustainable. You know, it's more like cooperative. You have to do it for the right reasons, not just for becoming famous or something like that.
That makes sense, yeah.
What do you think are some common misconceptions about nanotechnology?
Misconceptions? That is something you use in your cell phones or screen, or like it's for electronics. I think even when I asked my niece, for example, I think she thought I was doing something with electronics. They say nanotechnology, so they think, okay, it's technology, just smaller. Right? And it's not the case. Particularly my research group and together with Professor Scayano are doing a lot of environment and biological application. It has nothing to do with electronic devices in this case, right? That is one of the most misconceptions, I think.
I mean, I know
Most frequent.
we've already kind of touched base on this because we just talked about it, but in the future, let's give it like 20 years, so like a long time. Where do you what do you hope your research will get to? What's an outcome you think you'd hope for?
Well, if you're asking for the long term, I think beyond an application as a drug or a material, long term, it will be really nice to have other research building up on what we are publishing right now. So they can use what we learn and come up with new solutions for new problems, because the problem in 20 years are not going to be the same that we have right now, right?
For sure, yeah, for
So
sure.
it's going to be really nice if they're still useful for something.
Okay, so we're going to move on to our last section, and this one's kind of more just about advice, wrapping up thoughts, things like that.
Okay.
So what advice would you give students who are considering careers in research or biochemistry or nanotech?
If I have to answer, the first thing that comes to my mind today is don't wait.
Yeah.
Because I had students email me about interested in doing this lab tour that I'm giving next week, and they were saying that they were considering research since the minute they join university, or like, don't wait, because unfortunately in the system, academic system that we have right now, they're asking for experience the minute you're born.
Yeah.
And I do not agree with it, right? I'm just saying it's the way it is. So it doesn't matter how small, how unrelated to what your passion is, it is experience. And if you are a flexible person, you will always learn something, okay? Just get into it, knocks on doors, okay? They will not come and magically pick you. There are too many people. And that's good, actually. It's not happening in Argentina, let me tell you. Because of all the cuttings, we have less and less students pursuing their interest. So they are interested, but they know there's no a future for them there.
Oh.
So either they leave the country, like,
Yeah.
or they pursue something else, right? So since you have the opportunity here, there's still many groups and it's growing, doing research, and you can also find research within companies, by the way. It doesn't necessarily need to be a university. If you are interested, don't wait. Don't wait.
Yeah. Like touching on that, or like following that, are there any opportunities you do know that you would tell students right now, or just even more advice about certain opportunities you should take, things like that?
Yes, it's a good question. I can mention some scholarships. So for the students listened, they can Google them, right? So if you are in Canada, you can Google the RISE, RISE scholarships. And those are particularly for research in these fields of chemical, right? Of chemistry, biology. But you can Google them because there's not only one pool. So the RISE scholarship for professors here in Canada, and you can also apply for RISE scholarship for professors that are in Europe or Latin America. So it's a global program. Professors can enroll, and then they can say, okay, I have 1 spot, 2 spot for students, and then you apply. You can see the project there and you apply, okay? And according to funding, you get them or not. For students coming from Latin America, I'm obligated to say it. I want to help them. So you have to look for the ELAP scholarship, ELAP. So it's Emerging Leader of America program, and is specifically founding to get students from Latin America to come here. Even if you are already in New Ottawa and you are from outside, I will recommend look for your own government scholarship. Some of them may be bigger or smaller, but most of them have a few spaces, okay? And there's also the NSER scholarship here in Canada. And surprisingly, there are scholarship for undergraduates, which is not very common back in my country. But I think it's a good opportunity because, like I was saying, the sooner you get submerged in research, the better. Okay. So even if you think, oh, I'm a first year, I'm a second year, I may not know enough.
Just go.
There's always someone that is gonna be there for you. You don't need to do it all on your own. This summer we are having 1 student from first year, 2 for second year. I'm opening a space, 1 more space, and these guys are from second year, most of them. So it's never too soon, I will say.
Yeah.
All right, that's a wrap. Thanks for spending time with us today. We hope you guys benefited in one way or another from our conversation. I'm Taryn.
And I'm Anusha, and we'll be back next time with more stories, insights, and a fresh cup of tea to spill. Remember, the journey doesn't stop here. Keep thinking, keep questioning, and keep steeping in inspiration. See you next time.